Hello, and today we will continue with Pervader. He said I had to build these entities and store them in my memory, that I would later recall them and invoke their image. But that was not enough to spawn a wisp. You cannot conjure the flame of a candle, because there is no candle. Thus you must create your own light. The wisp is not a true flame. Its warmth and gleam do not come from burning or sunlight manifesting, but another force that communicates radiance. You need to imitate light, and so I delved deeper into a deliberate fantasy, seeking out new forms of light, volume, and warmth. My new awareness was able to make sense of this chaos, to keep it all in perspective, to strengthen the image and prevent it from fading. It was like a waking dream. I would play with my symbols, massing against each other, giving birth to new forces that made no sense in real realms. Yet it felt natural in this other world. This is a whole nother universe. There are new rules and laws to test. Here freedom is a primitive principle, has subtle appendages with absolute reach, so much to take in. Yeah, I can tell this universe is bounded. I'm all-powerful, yes, but I'm trapped in itself. Knowing that there is a limit, my reach means nothing. This place, I am like the spoke of a wheel. The process runs with me, and I'm part of the process. My mind is a furnace, smelting thoughts, suggestions, clues, and hunches, shaping them into tools. They fit in my hand. I can wield them. They are like puzzle pieces, but the pieces do not seem to fit. Combinations, permutations, arrangements, adding and removing, analysis, brute force. The experiment carries on in a timeless bubble, with nothing to show for it. Pointless. I surrender. My mind ascends the way it came, gently rising back to reality. The transfer is no longer sudden. The path to open to me, as Alan had said before. I am changed. It is the same road, viewed in reverse. I am at a different angle. Everything is at a different angle. I can see faces I could not see before. I can travel in and out of the state any time I wish. The signposts are put in place like pillars of an ageless material. They were never filtered, although those thoughts are strange and so arcane. It was a place where things made sense, but looking backwards, I cannot attach reason to any of it. The journey is proper, though fruitless. I have not found a way to produce a wisp. I open my eyes, feeling old and locked. Rolling and rolling and rolling. Down the valley I go. Well, I can't do it. What? Did you get lost? No, I was there. But I know I can't do it. I haven't figured it out yet. I think I need more time. You seem puzzled by my conviction. How do you know? I know. I think you know too. Ella nodded slowly. Well, you seem wise to it. I was where I was supposed to be, where you wanted me to go. I narrowed and played with a stinging sensation crawled across my temple, so I went to rub it. I see. Good. Perhaps we should have started slower. Next time you must take it easy, explore at your leisure instead of searching for something. I should have known you would overindulge. You're very keen to progress, but care must be taken when one's is deep in the other. The other, he hadn't mentioned that term before. My intuition flared, and I realized that Alan had purposefully withheld the word until now. His face was drawn straight, yet I could find confirmation in it. What is the other? That's a question I already know the answer, but the question is inevitable. What we call magic is the end result of an event caused by a supernatural mechanism. Everywhere around us, there is a state of abstract equilibrium, and potential energy for manifold change. Pervaders can perceive this dynamic and are able to make sense of it, still remain blind to it. Able to see, able to affect once you begin to play around and test. Release the energy and a new force takes shape. This is what we call ether. When your conscience flows from here to there and sinks into a sea of forces where everything is mutable. The ether is our clay. It is the fire that powers, the breath that gives life. It's the soul of men and women and the spark of imagination. It's everywhere. Alan cracked a knowing smile. And only we can see it. Very promising, Ravens. Very promising indeed. It's good we did this now. You'll have time to reflect on all this on the road. Now would be a terrible time to sleep. Consider this your second awakening. I feel strangely numb. I know it would pass, but how can I help now? Help? With this affliction? In due time, you're much too exhausted right now. This is only the beginning. There is much for you to learn. Alan placed his hand on my back and walked us towards the camp. Jimso had gathered up all our things and was lying down yet again, eating another one of those apples. He was relieved to see that we were ready to go. Finally, I was just about to doze off. I'm not sure how long it's been since I entered that trance. Time was hard to grasp. I knew I could look up at the sun in the sky and figure it out, but just the thought gave me a headache. Don't want to think anymore. For the rest of the day, my legs will be doing all the work. Tomorrow, we'll arrive in Pervader. I hope to be more even killed by then. A place with so many Tomorrow, we'll arrive in Pervader. I hope to be more even killed by then. A place with so many pervaders is bound to have important answers. Now I just have to figure out the right questions. When you're traveling, you have to spend most of the day walking. Boredom sets in sooner or later. This is just a clear, pretty day up above low hills and mountains, plains, birds, ponds, a few signs of civilization, and even fewer strangers on the road, all brief, momentary distractions. Sharing the journey with others is a blessing, and the occasional exchange of words keeps you grounded and strengthens your resolve to push on. It bonds you to your friends, helping everyone get there in high spirits and good health. Though you must take care of your stamina as well. Conversation is tempting, but it stills your breath. There's a balance. You must keep saying and stay and find fettle. I was not balanced. Alan's lesson opened up a new world to me. It was like I had been born again as a new soul into an old body. My head was straining itself, trying to get used to these new sense-making faculties. It was getting hard. It was getting easier. Thoughts that were once rigid were now relaxed. I looked at Alan and Jim saw it, and I saw friends. My heart warmed, knowing that I would not be alone on this perilous road. I felt so grateful to be with them. What's with that dopey look? Nothing. I am in a soft mood, but I cannot let him see it. He wouldn't understand the things I've experienced. How could he? I wouldn't understand it, not until I felt this, the other. Take a step back, further. I could understand his perspective. There was a kind of joy in Jim's naivety. You never know what you're missing if you're not even aware of the whole that exists within you. I'd like to change his mind, but he's much too disillusioned to lower his guard and risk the thought. Besides, people are seldom convinced by words. If he should ever walk this path of mine, then he needs to see it for himself. All I can do is smile back and hope for our good luck. Jim shook his head and rolled his eyes at Alan. Your mumble-jumble is taking its toll. His words are edged with thorns, but thorns are not hateful. As the evening turned out, the sun appeared to plunge faster and faster under the horizon. We were far away from any signs of habitation. Last time we saw a village the sky was still all blue. The plain extends far and wide in each direction, not much shelter to be found. A forest darkens on the eastern hill, but it is too far and out of the way to reach. The air is dry and still, carrying an idle warmth. No river, no lake, no puddle. We would need to search for water come morning. Bleak prospects for a good night's rest. Still we make do with what we can. Our water skins will last until tomorrow. No sense in fretting our misfortune. Alan shook his head. We have to stop here. Not a good place to set up camp. We're easy to spot out here. I know, we should have stopped after the last village. This bus over there. Jim's sighed. Good enough. Ever since I left home, things have been getting rougher and rougher. The trend continues, though I enjoy the escape from routine. When your life hangs in the balance, all your principles gain new values and relationships. I can't do much to save myself except to go with the flow and hope for a new tomorrow. In Alan's eyes, it meant I had to learn magic because he believes my strange surgery could answer a few questions. I'm excited, although my previous trance had disturbed me. I felt the need to return to it soon. I also know I need to pace myself. The old bear said as much, and I am keen to trust him. Tomorrow I will conquer the spell. This time I woke up first. I had sweat like a hog in heat all throughout the night. The knapsack I used as a pillow was damp on one side. Alan was lying down next to me under the large tarp we shared. His breathing was faint and scratchy. Waking up next to him like this reminded me of Jonah at the worker camp. I wonder if he's still in Chariot. I crawled out from under the covers of my bedroll and from under the tarp, taking care of not to ruffle the seats too much. It was the earliest of mornings. The horizon had just started to glow pink. I grabbed my water skin and drank from it. The wind must have picked up right before I awoke. It was a soothing breeze. The chill tickled my lips after I released the water skin. I looked at Jimstar sleeping quietly under his own tarp a few feet away. His head pokes out under the seat, breathing softly. It's all so quiet and peaceful at this early hour. I wouldn't want to wake them yet. In my stupor, I resigned to just sit around and take in my surroundings at least for a little while. Taking a deep breath, I invited myself to relax further. We were off the path and slightly hidden from view, having set up camp under a few wild bushes. Either way I looked, the road seemed to be absent of any strangers, not that you would expect to see anyone traveling these parts at such an early hour. This is good. I have some time to myself. A little bit more meditating should be useful. I stood up and strolled out into the overgrowth away from the road. My hand swept through the tall blades of grass, feeling them cut and snag on the pads of my palm. I felt the soft chill of dew with every touch until I reached into a patch of flatter ground. This is a good place. Let's try this again, Ramus. Close my eyes. Relax, push away reality. And delve. The void of sight obscured began to swell once more. And utter darkness surrounds me. Not even the moonless and starless sky could be completely black. Almost terrifying, were it not so perfect and absolute. Like a compass, I am free to do with this place as I rest. Time to get to work. Let's start out with a frame of reference. Hello, Alan. Ramus, what do you think I should do? I want you to take it slow this time. You don't want to overdo it again. Yes, I remember. Let's plant the grass. You're getting the hang of this. I stared at him, and he seemed very pleased. All I have to do to make him happy is follow his instructions. That kindness teacher, I am blessed to have him by my side. Though, no, this is not Alan. This is just my imagination. I shouldn't let my own mind play tricks on me. With a wave of my imaginary hand, With a wave of my imaginary hand, the mockery of the bear disappeared. It is foolish to succumb to your own illusions. Is there value in fiddling with your own belief? Maybe that plays a part in making these things real. It's a side of this world that I will have to explore further. Last time I was here, I followed a different, rational path, and there is more to discover. Yes, this place is not a playground, but a field of purposeful labor. And like a laborer, I have a tool, my will. Like a bus, I mentally wheeled it and waved it across the space, carefully painting little clusters of meaning. Each mind stroke refines the image and makes it useful. The clusters grow and intermingle. They congeal and form into larger entities with solid foundations and sturdy cores, with roots that reach into an analog reality. Trying to make it rest again? Go away. Go away, what's the other? I'm doing what you want me to do. I know. Then why are you bothering me? I'm helping you. You're distracting me. I'm helping you, lad. Pestering fear, I try to wave it away once more, but this time it stays there. Why can't I get rid of you? I need to get a hold of myself. Better focus. Sue, go away. That's no way to treat a friend. You're not real. So argue with me and make that wisp. I'm trying to, but you keep interrupting me. Create it in my presence. I saw Alan conjure his wisp once more, letting it float between us. That little flare taunts me. Alan taunts me. He stares and waits, expecting me to impress him. All right, Ramus, it seems you're gonna have an audience. Let's try again. Recall the entities that I had built thus far, the essentials of flame, light, fire, warmth. Weave the elements. Use your power to transform the ether into the fundamental states of reality. Take the energy and focus it in that direction. Arrange them into something useful. Yes, that is the path. I've been this way before, when I took control of Alan's wisp. It's so much clearer now. I can travel down this road as I have before. Yet now I can see so many bifurcations and crossroads. I can modify it. Mercy, there are so many possibilities. Much of the mind fog is lifted, goals can be set, and the path will light up with my purpose. What's all this then? I am torn away from the trance. When I open my eyes, I find Alan and Jimstar facing me. Darn, Jimstar, you ruined it. What the? Is he okay? Of course he's okay. Ramus was simply meditating. I don't know. He seemed pretty out of it this time. Alan rolled his eyes. Would you like to teach him instead? Look, we need to get going, alright? You guys should stop messing around with this stuff and focus on our mission. I swear at this rate, Ramus will become an organ before we find a cure. Jimstar turned and headed back to the camp. Sorry about that. Well, my temper confused about what just happened. Alan, I was in a trance. I know. I was there with you. What do you mean? You were speaking to me. It must have been confusing for you to be in that position, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I gave him a fiercely look. I wasn't trying to trip you up. I was helping you, truly. You see, when your mind pushes deeper into the ether, having an anchor to the real world can help you manifest your magic. Bridge the two worlds. Make it easier to translate your intentions into spells. That's why I spoke to you. Your voice was my anchor. Yes. Then our friend interrupted you. His voice pulled me out. When Jimstar spoke, I felt like someone had thrown a bucket of water at my face. Alan's words, on the other hand, were carried with gentle undertones. But why didn't your voice interrupt me? Pervader voices have tricks to them. There are ways to speak to someone deep in the ether without breaking their trance. Eventually, you will also learn that skill, which will help you use your voice to cast spells like the incantations you've heard you heard me do. It's a function we call echo. A very common skill, though. We still need to do more work before we can get there. All in due time. I think I had it. The way was clear, and there were so many places to go. Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I'm sure you'll be able to impress in Valgarion. That's all fine and dandy, but we need to go before anyone spots us. The sun's almost out. Fair enough. The Watts could be looking for us right now, though I couldn't help but feel slightly better towards him for ruining my meditation. Zinso was hard at work, packing everything up. I said, help him. I stepped forwards, but Alan pressed a hand on my shoulder to stop me. You can finish up there. I want you to try again. But Jones was right. We shouldn't waste time on this right now. I can practice more at the sanctuary. This will be quick, I promise. My eyes darted upwards. The wisp from earlier was floating up above. I guess I didn't imagine it. He really did cast a spell. That's yours. Yes, I made it while you were busy. I know. I saw you do it. I want you to take control of it again, but this time you are not going to enter the trance. I looked at him with a quirk. Wow. No trance? How am I supposed to do that? Before I asked you to close your eyes and spoil your own head, the point of that was to strip away any distractions from the real world and let yourself sink into the ether. Yet we are still here, always connected to our physical experience, even though we can have experiences beyond. Our minds pull upon the strings that make up the web of ether so that we can manifest magic. The web is not material, it is behind everything material. I don't understand, how does that help me cast magic? You know what to look for now. The next trick you need to master is relying on your intuition to coax the ether, instead of seeking it deliberately. You don't have to close your eyes to see. There are other senses you can rely on. Trust your memory to guide you. But how? These thoughts don't seem to make sense when my eyes are open. I mean, Jimso pulled me out of it really quickly with just a word. How am I supposed to maintain concentration when reality keeps pulling me back? Just give it a try. You'll see. It's easier than you think. Alan took a few steps back and stood by, urging me with a smile. Okay, I'll do my best. I wonder how this works. The thought patterns I indulge in while I am meditating are so awkward and alien. Ideas that appear rational in that alternate world seem too vague and wishy-washy while I try to consider them now as I am fully aware of my surroundings. Just seeing the grass and Alan in the sky, all those things remind me of how mundane everything can be. It feels wrong to see it and be reminded of it when I'm trying to do something so extreme. I try to apply the elemental process, shape the mind clay into something that resembles control, intention, and purpose. It's very odd. I feel like I'm trying to translate a language that I've never seen or heard before. Yet I can sense it. Through heavy concentration, I'm able to exert my will. Not as powerful as when I had my eyes closed, but the senses are alive. I'm so much weaker out here. The realization thunders through me as I remember just how powerful I felt before. It shakes me and almost makes me flinch. I allow the feeling to wash over me, through me. It takes a moment. Then it passes. Now it is only an echo. It stays that way until another wave hits. This one has a different yet familiar character. A sudden nerve steals me. It takes me a moment to realize I didn't actually touch anything. The sensation was entirely in my head, like an overindulged memory. A tickling chill crawls on my arms and legs through my neck and reaches into my head. I feel my eyes grow heavy and blurry. My vision blackens and grays, then becomes more vivid and flashes and subsides. I look and see everything is almost normal, though I can't quite place the difference. My hand, I lift it up to my face to look at it. 5 fingers my eyes to see. Do I 5 figures my eyes do see, but I see 5 more, glowing and growing like the branches of a tree. Suddenly, I realize my arm is actually 2. One within the other, like wearing the thinnest glove in my world. I jerk my hand away, and the pair are separated. One's like a phantom. Their movements echo one another, yet I can feel their distinct natures. They are different. With one eye I see, with the other I drink in the saddle of all things raw. With one arm I touch, with the other I tug on the strings that puppet reality. Reflexively, I reach out into the darkness and grasp the thing that knows me. The movement feels so real, yet my body remains still. The discrepancy throws me off. For a moment I struggle trying to keep my balance, unsure of what is real and what is different, and threatens failure. Keep it together, Ramus. I think this is the edge I have to ride, the place where spells could be coached. Yes, and now I have it. I can feel the warmth of that tiny orb around my hands. My inner eye can see it too. The wisp is mine, even though it's still floating above. Their positions are superimposed, material and immaterial, touched by a mark, abundance of my own design. The little torch is in the grasp of my consciousness. Its animation is subject to my whims. I haven't even moved it yet, but I can sense it as if I'm holding it its leash. The moment lingers as I bask in this feeling. It's not as exhilarating as last time. The moment lingers as I bask in this feeling. It's not as exhilarating. The moment lingers as I bask into this feeling. It's not as exhilarating as last time. This is much more interesting. I'm starting to understand how this works. A new lesson has been learned. It's mine. This time my real hand does not need to move. I'm able to control the wisp and move it with a limb that only exists in my head. The wisp swirls along to my thought commands, and Alan finds it with his eyes. Good work, Ramus. It dances much more nimbly, almost as if it knows what I want it to do before I even think it. They say the hand is quicker than the eye, but the mind is supreme. You were right. It wasn't that difficult. You're doing it. Everywhere I made it go, his eyes were sure to follow. His enthrallment with the little torch almost made me feel like I had cast a spell on him instead. I shared his joy and tried to entertain him, putting on a little show of swirls and squiggles. Jimsor was none too pleased, standing there in his sullen way. He must think we are mad. Although it was fun, I felt a nagging desire to explore more, to further test the limits of control. Alright, thank you, Ramus, but that is enough. You can experiment some more when we reach Vergilion. Yes, he's right. I want to do more experiments with this kind of magic, but I know we need to get going. We started walking back to camp. The wisp was still there, as it had no reason to disappear. I'm not sure how long these last or how to even get rid of them. I'm not even sure if I can free myself from it. No sense wasting it though. I brought the wisp in front of me and kept it there, guiding me like an escort. Its yellow-orange light is so pretty. When will I figure out how to make my own? I think I nearly had it earlier. At least if Alan makes one of these, I can easily take control of them. Wouldn't even have to concentrate too much. I wonder if Pervaders find it rude to steal their wisp. Oh, there's one more thing I want to do. I sent the torch towards Alan. As it got close, he turned to notice what I was doing. Oh, you giving it back? Nope, it's mine now. I'll do what I want with it. He rolled his eyes and turned away again, unconcerned that I was pushing the wisp into his body as he had done to me the day before. It passed through his clothes and fur and reached inside his chest. The light inside made him glow like a firefly. Alan walking made things difficult. I needed to maintain concentration to keep the wisp moving along at his pace, else it would peak outside and ruin the glow. It's all about momentum. He picked up on what I was doing and started wiggling around, making it hard on me. Hey, stop that. What's the matter? Can't keep up? I kept up our little dance for a little while longer. A few moments later, I began to feel silly. This didn't serve anything. I was acting like a child again. Though Alan seemed to reflect my playfulness, I relaxed my mind and allowed the rest to return to me. Did that make you feel strange? No, I don't feel much of it anymore. Once you've practiced magic a little bit, you become adjusted to it. Would Jigsaw feel it too? Well, why don't you try it? Jigsaw was kneeling down with his back towards us, pack up his things. I could put the wrist inside him too. He wouldn't be able to protest until it was too late. I wonder if this would make him feel any different about magic. Should I really ambush him with his experience? He has made it clear that he doesn't like magic. How upset would he be if I tried it? Probably not a good idea to surprise him like that. I tried to convince him instead. Jigsaw, I brought the wrist between us. I want to show you something. Show me what? Yesterday, Alan taught me how to make this wrist. Well, he tried to. I actually can't make one myself, but he showed me something really interesting. What are you talking about? This little light here. He looked around the area left and right, then narrowed his eyes and glanced between me and Alan. Is this some kind of trick? No, The way he asked that question made me realize that he was confused and not trying to be stiff-necked. On hunts, I commanded torch to bob up and down, not too fast, but fast enough to be distracting. His eyes were never drawn to it. Can't you see it? He shrugged his shoulders and shook his head slightly. What am I supposed to see? Are you going mad, Ramus? Or am I going mad? You can't see it. Of course he can't. Jigsaw is a watchman. To him, the woods doesn't appear to exist because its light is unable to reach his eyes. What do you mean? Do you remember when we were locked up in that cell in Chariot? There were 2 flower pots adorned with blue flowers. Yes, he said those things stop magic. It's called ether wine. If you held one of those flowers in your hand, you wouldn't be able to see the torch either. Why? It is not physical. Its light is not real light, but a type of magical radiance. Ether wine prevents magic around itself, and it also stops that light from passing. So that's why he can't see it. You have a blue flower on you? Not the flower part. Jigsaw went to pick up a mug which has been lying on one of the stones by the smoking remains of the campfire. I drink this every morning. I looked inside and saw a murky mixture of green and black grains and fragments which coated the cup's bottom and lip. It had a tannic and earthy scent. Green tea, ether tea made from dried leaves. What does it do? It does what the plant does. It prevents magic. He puts the cup in my hands, almost as if he expected me to sip. Don't drink it. Why not? You won't be able to use magic for a while. A few days at least. And it'll make you sick. Why, I almost forgot. Ether is toxic. Then how come you can drink it and build up an immunity to it? Instead of we do in training, it takes about a year of taking it in small dosages until you're able to drink it without feeling ill. The benefit is worth it, though. I mean, ether makes every watchman immune to magic. Your spells are useless against us. The Sylvan Watch seems so much more dangerous now. I knew ether was powerful, but I never realized it could be so easy to wield. How can magic ever hope to prevail against such an abolishing force? The Inquisition managed to root out most pervaders across this domain. I guess I know why they were so successful now. Are we ready to go? Yes, we spent enough time dilly-dallying. The road ahead was kind to us. A little ways over the horizon, we stumbled upon a small river where we filled our water skin. The river edged the path, and we followed it further up northeast. We were led along a tall, sparse wood, where the canopy shielded us from the rising sun. It was almost noon by the time the road started leading us inside the forest. Several pines had been cut down, marked by stumps that dotted the area here and there, one for every four that were still standing. Off left into the distance between the trees and into a narrow valley, we could spot a tiny village and its lumber mill. There didn't seem to be any people, so hopefully nobody saw us either. We were pretty far out of the domain, so it probably wouldn't be an issue, but it's best to be cautious either way. An hour or two later, and we were still in its thin forest. I was starting to feel cramped, surrounded by trees, though Alan was confident we would arrive soon. The sun was still high in the sky, well past midday. I began to feel excited and anxious. We're almost there. I think we will visit a sanctuary, a place where everyone is a pervader like me. No more routine, no more mundane day-to-day work, but an actual world of magic. I desperately want to see it. I wonder what they will think of me. Though I wonder what they will think of Jimsaw. When we get there, I'm going to have to make sure he doesn't get too stressed. He'll be out of his element, a lone watchman among pervaders. How will that community react to his presence? I wanted to talk about it with Alan, but Jimsaw will overhear us. Then again, it's probably on his mind too. I'm sure it's not lost on him that Pervader Sanctuary wouldn't receive Jimsaw warmly. Maybe we shouldn't tell them that Jimsaw is a watchman. That's probably the safest bet. Though I wonder if Jimsaw can set aside his pride for a moment to do that. If he can't keep his cool, then we would be better off telling the truth about everything. We would have to lie about how we ended up with this affliction, though. Darn, it's getting too complicated. Ah, there it is. Vergarian. It's a lovely place, and so secluded too, far away from any other civilization, surrounded by hills and trees, smack dab in the middle of a pond. It was refreshing to see the sky open up above it. I was starting to get sick of all the canopy blocking out the sun. A wave of solemnity washed over me now that we have reached our destination. Although the path was by no means hidden, you would have to be of strong convictions to follow it so deep in the hearts of this forest. The sanctuary reminded me of the abbey back home when my father took me and my younger brother on that pilgrimage outside Mount Salient. Ellen took a few steps forwards and turned around to face me and Jimsaw. Alright, before we make ourselves known, let's establish some ground rules. I'll do most of the talking. I'll tell them what we've been through and why we're here. You'll tell them everything? I think that's the best. Lies don't survive long in places like these. I wouldn't be surprised if they already know the Watts are looking for us. Hold on. If they know we're on the run, are you sure they aren't going to sell us out? Pervaders don't sell out their own, especially sanctuary folk, especially in these thorny times. You'll find no better allies. I'm not so sure about this. No need to worry. We will not be the first watchman to arrive at their doorstep with a surgeon. Sanctuaries in this region, so close to the domain, and its rescue missions for those who awaken during their service in the watch. Those are deserters. It's perhaps you shouldn't hammer that point too hard. In any case, I'm sure the Archon will be very interested to hear about your afflictions. Finally, and this should go without saying, but do not be rude to anyone in the sanctuary. That's the surest way we'll get the sewers were going to get kicked out. If we're on the same page, we both nodded. Jim saw Ed at the outside. Alan wanted to hear of us as we approached the water. How are we getting across? We wade through. Do they have a bridge or something? No need to worry. The water is only about waist high. I'd still rather not get wet. Alan sat down on the ground and took off his boots. Best to go barefoot. Is this how they do it too? Yes. Wouldn't that get annoying? He didn't answer. We took off our boots as well, following Alan as he took the first step into the pond. Junso had detached his scabbard from his belt and held it in his hands. Don't they leave the island? They go outside, of course. There's no reason one would need to sequester themselves to this tiny retreat when the surrounding land is so beautiful and bountiful. It's pretty, to be sure, but what else is there to find in the forest? There are several good plants to harvest around these parts. Like what? Oh, let me think. Was it mangoweed, roomstyre, bitethorn? I've never heard of those. You hear about many new things at the sanctuary. Wouldn't it make sense to build a bridge then, or at least have a rowboat? It would somewhat defeat the purpose. What purpose? Deterrence. Do you mean it's trying to keep people out? So the water is like a moat? Really? It's a bit shallow for a moat. Well, it's not a traditional moat. I give you that, but it does its job. Does it look like it'll keep bandits away? It keeps pesky travelers away. Aren't we pesky travelers? But we pay their water toll. A moat does little without a wall. Not all walls are made of stone. We crossed into shore and were welcomed by a field of brilliant red flowers. Poppies, perhaps? I wasn't sure, though they looked very familiar. The flowers extended in each direction, wrapping around the colony to surround it. I shook off the water from my legs before putting my boots back on. Anna and Jim had done the same. As I stood up, a gentle wind tickled my ears and brought the scent of light rose and cinnamon to my nostrils. I looked ahead and saw signs of locals walking by windows and between the buildings. A few of them turned their heads and noticed us, but they didn't seem too concerned. Alan stopped in front of the field. Do we enter? No. We've been noticed. Now we wait for someone to greet us. With little else to do than wait, my ears perked and tuned into the local sounds. I could almost hear people chatting somewhere beyond a corner or behind one of the hedges. The buzzing of beetles and ladybugs and a melange of rustling sounds permeated our surroundings. A pair of chimes rang somewhere in the sanctuary, and I heard movement. Definitely a lived-in place. Not long after, a perky fellow came out from the main building and started walking towards us. He wore a courteous smile as he made his way through the field. Good afternoon. Welcome to Valgarian. Guess it'll look good, young man. My name is Alan. Ah, guess it'll look good to you, sir. Call me Anatole. Please come on in. The Archon will want to welcome you personally. Thank you. Before we enter, I have to let you know that one of my companions is a watchman of the Inquisition, though we are all pervaders. Oh. He glanced over to Jimsaw. Only a cleric? No, I'm a knight. His smile turned awkward then cautious. Well, may I ask what brings you here? Jimsaw's situation is a bit more complicated, but he is not here on any Inquisition business. I see. Very well. The Archon will decide either way. Please follow me. We were escorted through the fields. The yellow grass beneath our feet cracked with each step. As I walked, I leaned to the side to touch the flowers I thought were poppies, and as I did so, I felt them stick to my fingers like leeches. I flinched and pulled up my hand. What's wrong? These things are snagging. It's fine. Just keep moving and they won't do anything. This field is so quality. I felt like I was in a thick swamp with all sorts of things hidden beneath the surface, and I wanted to get away from it as quickly as possible. And I realized that the plants were scratching against my clothes as well. What the hell are these things? With a quickened pace, we managed to escape the flower trap. This way. We followed Anatole into the main building. Inside was a large hallway with several tables arranged along its length like a mess hall or a place of study. A warm and bitter scent permeated the air as if some kind of brewing process took place shortly before we arrived. A boy was sweeping the floor with a broom in the corner beyond the counter, paying us no mind as we traversed the corridor. Passing through the doorway, we arrived in a large room. It reminded me of Alan's antiquarium. This place was a little bit tidier, however. Beyond the desk were a few bookshelves being perused by a man. Oh, I guess I lied. Thank you for bringing them here, Anatole. The young Pervader nodded and went to pull a few chairs from the wall forwards. My name is Victor, and I am the Archon of the Sanctuary. Guess what I agreed. Archon, I'm Alan, and these are my companions, Jim, Troy, and Ramus. Ah, welcome. You've been at the Vale before. Many years ago, when I was still their age. Lovely. Allow me to extend a gracious welcome to you all and offer you sanctuary. And please call me Victor. Thank you, Victor. Will you care for some tea? That would be kind. The Archon turned towards Anatole. Will you ask Jim to brew something for us? Yes. What is it, lad? I mentioned to Anatole that Jim Saw is a watchman. Really, that's curious. He turned to look at Jim Saw, whose manner of dress and weapon strung at the belt made him stick out. Step forward, young man. Jim Saw edged closer. My, you look quite the fighter. Strong arm, stern look, firm posture. Geared up and ready for action at a moment's notice. Why, if I didn't know any better, I would be afraid you'd leap at me like some demon. Am I correct, sir? I try not to let my guard down. Of course, especially at a place like this. Old wounds make for ungodly bitters. You wear them well, as any Pervader. The old man waited, though Jim Saw said nothing more. Silence lingered long enough for the afternoon birdsong to permeate the air. I'm sure you well know that the Tributariat closes its doors to the Inquisition and its Silver Watch. We do things differently here in the Vale. If you are seeking shelter, I grant it without prejudice. You will be given rooms and food in our goodwill if you so desire. All I've asked is that you respect our ways and not abuse our benevolence. We thank you. As Archon of this settlement, it is my duty to ensure that the Vale Gillion remains a bastion of concord, free of malice. That is the purpose of sanctuaries. You've arrived with a Pervader who has earned our trust in the past, for he trusts in you, and must trust in you as well. Our rules are simple. Do not cause trouble with any of the folk in the sanctuary. Be kind, you will receive in kind. I also never wish to see your weapon out of its leather. Bare weapons are all ill sight among us. It is a cruel reminder of an impropriety we all have worked to erase from our lives. If you wish to practice your swordplay, you may do so in the forest. Fair enough. Good, wise. Jim Saw is not here as a watchman. Oh, then what capacity are you here? Jim Saw has a surgeon. Ah, I see. Many years ago, a lost boy, no older than yourself, hungry, bruised, and weary from travel, arrived at our doorstep, seeking shelter. He claimed to have run away from home. Then he was afraid the watch would get to him, and that his parents thought ill magic. A young Pervader with nowhere else to go. I gave him food and bed, and we taught him the ways of the surgeon. He became one of us. It took him years It took him years to muster the courage to say that he had been a watchman. He was terrified that we would abandon him once the truth came out, but that is not our way. Instead, we found more love. Now, more than a decade later, he has grown into a formidable mithril, an arcanist, the tributary himself. I know things might seem bleak right now, but you needn't worry. We will show you a brighter future. You're very kind, Arkan, but Jimstar did not awaken. The Arkan glanced between Alan and Jimstar, wiggling his brow. Not awaken? What do you mean he did not awaken? Is there some other means of gaining a surgeon? I know it must be strange. I could hardly believe it myself at first, but that is not why we're here. Both of these boys have been afflicted with some kind of curse, and I fear that it is deadly. This affliction came with their surgeons, and Jimstar is the son of the Master of the Watch. The Arkan's eyes flared. He looked over at us as if taking in a new scene. You may go and fetch the tea, Annie. I think we will be in need of it. Anatole then hurried away. I'm listening, friends. The three of us gathered chairs and around the desk where the Arkan sunk in his own, resting his chin on his fist. Anatole came back shortly with a wooden tray filled with teacups. He served each of us and afterwards took a seat next to the Arkan. For the rest of the afternoon, the two of them listened to our story. Alan did most of the talking. Hearing it all over again made me dizzy. Every day I pushed back against this dark mood by focusing my attention elsewhere or learning magic, yet it always comes back. As Alan spoke, I began to drift off, thinking of less unpleasant things, wishing I could focus on my own meditations. I saw them my surgery and my scars, the pulsating blue tendril rooted in my chest, spreading away from the center. It had grown an inch or two since we left Cheria, I noticed. I felt sick looking at it again, but I have to show them. Eventually our cups ran dry, and little else needed to be said. Alan had answered all the Arkan's questions. We all sat in silence. Annie, go fetch us some more tea. The young Pervader ambled away, a little bit grayer than before. How much time do you have? I can't be too sure, maybe weeks. Jimstar and Weymouth were only struck once. The other watchmen had multiple wounds, and that accelerated the affliction. But we cannot waste time. I understand. Regretfully, I do not have any experience in Nagantis to share. I thought the Veil was a friend of the Seekers. It was many years ago. The previous Arkan was a Seeker himself. Our library has many books on Nagantis, which you are free to pursue. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the sanctuary who might have knowledge? Not that I know of, although you may ask around. Ah, there's a young man, a friend of the sanctuary who visits on occasion, who is quite passionate about Naganti lore. I'm sure he has something to say. He said he would visit soon. Perhaps, if fortune finds you, he may turn up before you decide to leave. We cannot stay here too long. Our best bet is to find a dagger. Let's get to it then. He stood up suddenly with youthful springiness. Arkan, I'm not going to sit idly by while you work on this by your lonesome. My mind is on your task, and we will work together. Thank you so much, Arkan. Please, dear friend, I've told you to call me Venter. Of course I do. We all headed toward the hall. Jimstar stumbled into Anatole on the way out. Oh, sorry. It's alright. Jimstar strutted down the hall ahead of us. Where's he off to? Never a bad idea to get some fresh air. We're supposed to go to the library. Says who? You said so. I said I was going to the library, and Victor will be joining me. Are you saying I'm not allowed to come? I have a more important task for you. I want you to keep an eye on Jimstar. He won't feel right in a place like this by himself. Do you think he'll cause trouble? Not willingly, no, but I believe he is easy to frustrate. Do your best and check up on him every once in a while, will you? Okay, I'll stay with him. Don't guard him. That might make it worse. Secondly, I want you to spend some time learning magic in this sanctuary. My friend, I've arranged for the library. There's much to look over, shall we? In a moment, thank you, Venter. May I ask, are there any elementary magic classes in the Vale? Raymond is very keen to learn and very starved for some proper education. Surely. Annie. He called out for Anatel, who popped out the doorway a few moments later. Annie, will you show Raymond around the sanctuary and help him attend Raymond's elementary class? Of course, Master. Alan gave me a confident nod as he walked away with Venter, leaving me alone in the hall with this smiling puffball. I felt a bit ill at ease that Alan refused my help, though I can hardly blame him. He knows all too well that reading is not my sharpest skill. I'll probably get in the way rather than contribute anything. Can't complain too much, at least I get to learn more about my powers. No time to consider these things. My companion is waiting. Come on, I'll show you around. I followed him outside and we began to stroll around the sanctuary. Vergarion is pretty small, but there's lots to see. Thanks, I'm Ramus, by the way. Pleased to meet you, Ramus. I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but Mercy, you got quite a story. Don't you worry, though. I'm sure the Archon will help find what your master is looking for. My master? Do you mean Alan? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm assumed. Silly me, apprenticeship would be the last thing on your mind. I can't say that was anywhere close in my thoughts. What do you do as an apprentice? It's just like any other trade, really. Masters need help with all sorts of things, and you get to learn by assisting them. I spent a lot of time with Archon Venter, helping with his studies and preparations, keeping his studio clean, delivering his messages, bringing him food. And he teaches me a lot, you know. There are certain things you only ever learn by being close to those who are talented. I'm very lucky to be his apprentice. What kind of magic does he teach you? Oh, lots of things. He started to face me and extended his arm forwards, showing me his palm. He wiggled his fingers for a moment, then turned his hand, palm facing upwards and fingers drawn in as he was holding an egg. Then I realized that he was showing me his claws, which indeed looked different. They were very sharp and even. Wow, you take very good care of your claws. I do, look at this. He took a step closer and extended his index finger. As I observed it, I began to notice a transient quality to his claw. The light of the sun bounced off of it in a spectacular manner, as if they were gems. Light shone through it just a little bit, and there was a shift of color around the bottom edge. It was a chromatic medley all at once, the natural bony cream of his paw, the blue and amber play of the evening sky, and a vivid green reflected off a nearby bush. He seemed quite proud to show me. Is that some kind of paint? No, my claws are without blemish, though I was not born like this. Tomorrow they will look the same, and 10 years from now they won't change. Well, unless I decide I want them to look different, I'll probably change them in a week, but I like how they look right now. You see, I made my claws look like this through magic. The Archon started teaching me Alazistry this year, which is a kind of magic that lets you make changes to your body. Like making your fur a darker shade or making your whiskers longer. You can even make yourself taller. But my master says that's too complicated right now. I learned to do this just a few days ago. He stared deeply at his own handiwork. Yes, there's so much you can do with magic. Have you tried using magic yet? A little bit with success, but I don't seem to be very talented. Nonsense, you're just new. It took me weeks before I could conjure up my own wisp, and then it blew up in my face. I had to wash out the residue from my cheeks for the rest of the afternoon. Was it dangerous? Not really, just a bit messy. Anyway, let's continue. We walked around the main building, a small park surrounding a small tree, lay in the middle of the settlement. There was a throng carved into the oak's base. I was tempted to walk towards it and take a seat, though I realized it probably wouldn't be proper. It was quite safe for a few gossiping butteries from a couple of students sitting at the far bench. They turned to notice us, though I didn't hold their attention for more than a moment. No sign of Jim saw yet. That one on the left is the old building. There's a workshop on the ground floor, and there are chambers upstairs for students. On the right is a new building. That's where most of the studios are, and where the Mythros teach classes and work on their projects. I looked around at the things Anatole pointed out, though I would often look back at the tree. Ah, you're wondering about the oak. I've never seen one carved like that. Is it okay? Oh yes, we take good care of it. It's an old thing back from when the Vergarian was still being built. The architect then made it to commemorate the sanctuary founding. It's an old thing back from when the Vergarian was still being built. The architect then made it to commemorate the sanctuary's founding. We use it sometimes during celebrations or events. The archon gets to sit in it and give a speech. Can anyone else sit in it? If you got a bum, sure. It's just a chair. You don't have to be royalty or get express permission from the archon or anything like that. Do you want to try it out? Although I was tempted, I decided it would be better not to act like a stranger. Another time, we used to get to the elementary class. Right, I almost forgot. This way. On days like this, many lectures are held outside. I think Mithral Wyman should be just around the corner there. The circle around the oak between the buildings to reach the other side of the sanctuary. Yet another strange tree, it casts a heavy shadow on the ground. Its trunks arched downwards, allowing the canopy to collapse to the ground into bushy pillars. A few students were sitting in attendance to a speaker. Anatole leaned in to whisper. His lecture is almost over. We'll sit in and catch the end of it. Anatole and I huddled into the last few chairs, a variable farthest away from the Mythral. The speaker noticed us, but continued his lecture without interruption. By this I mean to say, and I will end on this note, that there are many directions we can explore in the world. I consider it our joint purpose to be explorers. And I do not mean to be precise, whether you decide to pursue magic, or a study of the physical world, or a study of art, or politics, or of religion. Whichever path you decide for yourselves, my aim is to use the lens of magic to give you the tools necessary to be good explorers. And in that way, we will gradually make sense of this tremendous world of complexities and patterns. It's tough, but it's beautiful, and it only gets more beautiful from here on out. Thank you. The student stood up and hurried away with juvenile haste. Anatole and I approached the lecturer. Excuse me, Mr. Wyman. Anatole, if you're here to freshen up on your basis, I'm afraid you're a little late. No, Mithral, you know me better than that. The archon would whip me into shape if he thought I had failed on my fundamentals. This is Ramus, one of our new guests. Hello, sir. Lovely to meet you, Ramus, Finchard Wyman, the Mithral of the Sanctuary. He shook my hand, giving me the same kind smile that I have come to expect from Alan. Are you intending to become a new student? No, Mithral. He and a couple of other people stayed with us for a little while. The Archon is helping one of our guests with some research, but Ramus is new to magic and he would love to learn more. The Archon thought your class would be a wonderful fit. Then feel free to join us tomorrow. I hope most of my lectures out here while the summer lets us. If you need any help, I'd be happy to give you counsel. Come by early tomorrow. Thank you, sir. I'll make sure he doesn't miss it. Well, thank you for coming. If you'll excuse me, I need to check in on my studio. Show Ramus around the place, if you will, Anatole. Don't readjust the branch panel, though. I'll need it tomorrow. I couldn't even if I wanted to, Mithro. Alright, stay safe. The Mithro walked towards the sanctuary, leaving us. Just so you know, we don't really use sir around these parts. Oh, sorry. It really makes you stick out as a southerner. I didn't offend him, did I? No, not at all. You'll get used to it anyway. How shall I refer to him? Just by name is fine, or by title. You mean Mithro? That would be best. We returned to the sanctuary, and Anatole showed me some of the workshops and studios the students use to learn and experience their own magic. The students do most of their tasks in the morning, while the afternoon is devoted to leisure and personal work. A lot more people were hanging out in the park or lounging in the hall at this hour. Later we went to the library upstairs to check on Alan and Venter, although they were not there. I looked out the window and saw some of the students playing with their magic out in the red field below. A boy much younger than me waved a fantastic show of spiraling embers in the air. Another waved his hands to conjure a spell, although I did not see anything flash. My nostrils flared as a thick smell of roasted meat came from somewhere below, reminding me of hunger. Anatole told me they would soon serve dinner and that we should get ready. We buttoned to them at the bottom of the stairs. Ah, there you are. Finished your tour? I think that about covers it. You haven't seen Jimsaw, have you? I shook my head. I told you to keep an eye on him. I'm not sure where he could have gone, though. We've been all over the island. One of my students said they saw your friend crossing the pond earlier. Oh no, I hope he didn't leave. Apparently he was practicing his sword play out there in the wood. I hope he doesn't feel too sorry among us. We want all of our guests to feel welcome regardless if they are of the watch. Why don't you check up on him? We'll be serving dinner soon, and it would be a shame he missed it. Don't worry, we'll bring him back. Anatole followed me as I walked through the field once more, feeling the flowers snag onto my clothes with each step. Once we reached the water, I could already spot that familiar figure between the woods. He was swinging his sword around like I had seen him do back in Miram, only without a dummy this time. Always practicing. I hope we are never in need of his fighting skills. I tried waving at him, but I wasn't sure if he saw me out of the corner of his eye. Hey! Anatole yelled out to Jimsaw. He ignored the call, though I'm sure he heard it. Anatole, can you let me talk to him alone? Oh, of course. Is he okay, though? He's fine, he's just very focused. Go back to Alan and tell him Jimsaw and I will join you soon. Alright. I took off my boots and started wading through the pond once more. Jimsaw turned towards me when I reached the middle. Ramus? He approached me as I landed. Hey, I wanted to see what you were up to. He raised his eyebrow at me. Did you know? I'm just practicing. I would have done it on the island, but your Archon can't seem to handle the sight of a sword on his land. He's not my Archon. I sat down under a tree and watched him as he went back to swinging his sword. Is that what you've been doing all day? Not much else to do. He started slashing through the air, advancing forwards as he thrust, cuts left, then cuts right. It was almost like a dance. Anatole showed me around the sanctuary. It's a very pretty place. Did you see that big tree behind the other buildings? I didn't. You still gone with us. I'd rather not. Are you always this side? I'm cautious, okay? He put his sword back in his scabbard. This place gives me the creeps. I know you're enjoying yourself, learning and whatnot, happy to be among your own kind, but I can't be like you. I'm considering sleeping out here until we're ready to go. Dinosaur, don't be daft. Nobody's going to harm you. It's a sanctuary. You didn't see the looks I got from those people? They clearly don't want me here. Looks are not evil. Have you considered they might be more afraid of you instead of the other way around? Besides, Ellen never would have taken us here if you thought you would be in danger. I'm not so sure of Ellen's good judgment. If you keep acting this way, it might make things worse for yourself. He walked over and stood across from me, leaning against the other tree. A streak of sweat fell down the side of his face. I hate this. I don't want to be here, Mercy. It's just for a few days. I know, but I still feel wrong. Dinosaur, do you trust me? He gave me a droll smile, more than anyone else I've seen today. Be serious. I am, though. I trust you enough. What's on your mind? Can you make do without your sword practice for a few days? If I wanted to, why? Tomorrow I'm going to be attending a class on magic. You should come with me. I don't want to learn magic. I can't even use magic even if I wanted to. I drink ether tea, remember? If you'll sit in with me, people will see you. They'll realize that you're not a threat and that you just want to learn more. You might even learn something new about magic, something you can use. If you show them you're willing to listen, then they'll think better of you and of Watchman in general. It's an opportunity to make a good impression. Oh, Mercy, a cultural exchange. I did not train for this. Everyone will feel better about it, and then we can just leave in peace once Alan's done with his research. Won't you please make an effort? Or I could just stay out here. You know that's a worse idea. He sighed. Fine. But why did you ask me not to do any sword practice? Well, you heard what the organ said. They don't like weapons. If they see you with a weapon, they will think you're too threatening. Why don't you just put it away while we're here? I'm not going anywhere without my sword. I'm a knight of the Seven Watch. I'm nothing without my weapon. All these guys can snap their fingers and cause all sorts of disasters, but I'm expected to walk around disarmed? Out of the question, my sword stays with me at all times. Alright, just can you at least stop coming out here and swinging it around? I'm not hurting anybody. It sticks out. Someone saw what you were doing, and you know they don't like weapons. Dinosaur shook his head and kicked at the dirt. No wonder these folk run away in places like this. You think every person with a weapon is a murderer. Alright, I won't come out here anymore. Thank you. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do, though. We'll figure it out. They said dinner's almost ready. Want to grab something to eat? You turn and lean against the tree again. Maybe later. They might get upset if you don't break bread with them. I don't think I make that much of a difference. They probably don't want me here either. The Archon seemed to be very welcoming. He's too trusting for his own good. What's that supposed to mean? If I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have allowed myself in. I'm with the Inquisition. I could be spying. Spying on what? There's this Pervader living out in the middle of the forest. I'm sure Heron would be interested. He might even scoped out this place already. Did you know about this sanctuary? I knew of it, though. I didn't know this exact location. Most of the sanctuaries are dotted down on our maps. The Archon asked me to get you. There's no way out of this. He sighed. Fine. We crossed our back towards the sanctuary, went into the main hall where dinner would take place. Alan, Venter, and Wyman were there, as well as a couple of other Methos I hadn't met yet. The Archon told us the stewards and Methos take their meals at different halls. Anatole brought us food and drink, and the evening went off without a hitch. Zimsor seemed to get along well enough. When prompted about his duty as a watchman by one of the Methos, he did not swing away from his pride. I could almost feel Alan's frustration as he listened, though he did not interrupt. Zimsor enjoyed the opportunity to defend his devotion to the Inquisition. Thankfully, they seemed to be more curious rather than antagonistic towards him. Seeing their easygoing nature, Zimsor loosened his rhetoric as well. The Methos were fascinated with our circumstances, and they were courteous not to pry too deeply into our troubles. It was a pleasant time. I offered to help Anatole with cleaning up the dishes, but he quickly turned me down, saying that I was a guest here and that it was out of the question. As the gathering was breaking up, I exchanged a few words with Method Wyman. He said he had spoken with Alan before dinner and had learned about my attempts at magic thus far. First thing tomorrow, I said meet with him for a lesson. I took the opportunity to invite Zimsor as well, and Wyman was pleased. With that, the Archon bid us all good night. Although Zimsor had come with me to Wyman's class and to a few other events, together with Anatole, his mood always seemed to be off balance, especially when talking with some of the students. He is very stubborn, and young students are the same. There was snipe remarks thrown in both directions, although Anatole and I managed to keep ourselves level-headed. That young bear has a sense for discretion when dealing with difficult people. I welcomed his help throughout the past few days. Throughout that time, I had grown fond of him. I had confided in him much of my troubles about magic, about home, my family, and my future. He listened, and he even taught me a thing or two about magic. We even traded wisp. It's been 3 days since we arrived at Vergilia, and today Zimsor said he did not want to leave his room. His voice had been drawling with ill humor. I don't know how much longer he can take it here. Hopefully Alan will have a solution for us soon. How's Zimsor? Not well, I think. He wouldn't come out of his room this morning. I'm sure he'll be okay. It must be tough on him to be here, but he's a tough guy. He should know better by now. His distaste for magic has been very frustrating ever since we left Chariot. Why is he like that? I don't know. Aren't all watchmen like that? I don't think so. We had a couple watchmen turn pervaders out of Vale before they were some of the kindest guys I've ever met. It is the accident you said. Well, I didn't turn out like he did. But perhaps Zimsor has suffered something else. Yes, he's very worried for his father. Would that explain why he's acting like this? I'm not sure. News is past us now, and lunch will be served soon. I wanted to knock on Zimsor's door again to invite him to the meal, though Anatole suggested we check in with Alan in the Archon first. If they come up with some good news, it might help calm Zimsor's mood. We entered the hallway and were surprised to stumble into him and the doorway. He held his posture stiff, though his arms and glare were twitchy. Zimsor, you come out. Where's Alan? Upstairs with the Archon. We were just going to check up on him. Good, then you can tell Alan. I decided I'm leaving. What? There's no point in me being here. Just wasting time. I've got a few heads I want to check out. I'll be back by the time Alan's done. He turned to walk out, but I grabbed his arm to stop him. As soon as I did it, I felt afraid and loosened my grip, like he would throw me to the ground for even touching him, but he simply turned to glare at me. Wait, is it Tinderhall? Zimsor, that's... Don't speak so loudly. Nobody else is supposed to know. Who knows who could be listening? He glanced at Anatole after he said it. Anatole, go upstairs and tell Alan to come down. The young bear hurried away as soon as I told him. Zimsor, no, that's too far away. You'll be gone for days. You'll be alone. It's too dangerous. You can't go. I'll be fine. As if the universe decided to intervene, a stranger appears in the doorway and bumps into Jimsaw. Ah! The snow leopard gives Jimsaw a quick glance before hurrying on inside. Sorry, excuse me. The ire in Jimsaw's eyes fell upon the stranger. I need to calm him down before he makes a scene. Let's get some fresh air. You ignore me. Hey, you. Jimsaw, let's speak outside. The sun and air will do us both some good. You both continue to stare at the other one. Hey, don't walk away from me. Jimsaw's voice boomed throughout the hallway. The fair-furred leopard froze in place about 10 feet away. The entire sanctuary grew still. I could almost feel the perking of ears among those in the adjacent rooms and beyond. Jimsaw took a step forward. Turn around and look at me. The stranger remained fixed in an awkward stillness, as disturbed by Jimsaw's outrage as I was. I met eyes with one of the curious young ones coming from upstairs. The sound of steps echoed louder and louder. This is definitely attracting attention. Jimsaw stopped. His face was adamant, his glare arresting. These people have been nothing but kind to us. Why are you acting this way? It was as if I wasn't there. He did not hear a word coming out of my mouth. Alan's going to kill me if I don't relax the situation, if we don't end up dead some other way. I stepped in and stood nearly in front of him, pleading with my eyes, but he wouldn't budge. Not look. His face was scrunched up in an aimed snarl. Turn around, now. And the stranger did turn, moving in a forced, nonchalant manner. Their eyes met. I'm gonna stop right here. Okay, so there's something about this person here that has caught Jimsaw's attention, so much so that he is snarling and he's very angry. I mean, he's clearly not happy about seeing this person, so we'll see why Jimsaw is being all hostile at this person. So maybe that person has something to do with the with what happened in Chariot in Ellen's store. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, so we got to meet a lot of new characters in this part here, this video. Got to meet the Archon, the Mithril, and Anatole. Anatole, he's very nice and he's always quick to follow orders from the Archon and even from Ramus. I mean, you don't really have to follow orders from Ramus, but he does so anyway. And he gave Ramus a demonstration of his magic powers, and he's able to change the physical parts of his body. Like he changed the color of his nails, I think. And he can also become taller, though that's a type of magic that requires a lot of learning and that he hasn't gotten into yet, but he can alter his body and change it. He also alters whiskers, so that's a good power to have. So far everybody in the sanctuary has been polite to Alan, Weymouth, and Jim Sawyer. Though with Jim Sawyer now going off on somebody in the sanctuary that might change. And Jim Sawyer, he very much has a lot of pride as a watchman, and that pride of his has annoyed a lot of people in the sanctuary, but otherwise things have been calm. So apparently the Archon does not have any knowledge of the Naganti dagger, but there are books, there should be books here that has information on that, and maybe some other people. I think the Archon said that there are some people in the sanctuary with some information on that. So I don't know. It's been like several days now since they've been here in Verigarion, so I think Alan has made progress in the information he's looking at, because if there weren't any information, then I don't think they would have been here this long. So we'll continue with Pervader next time and see why Jim Sawyer all of a sudden is flipping out on this person here. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.